Hi, welcome to a new channel. When you make a channel, you kind of got to stick to like one thing that people expect. You guys have probably noticed, like I branched off in a bunch of different areas. That doesn't really work too well if they discover you by a video and they kind of expect more of that. So if you're doing all this different stuff, they really don't know what to expect. Like, what's the common denominator? I mean, it can't be me. Let's face it, I'm not that entertaining, okay? The other channel is for the main stuff that I like to do, which is going out, exploring, finding things, seeing really cool stuff. Well, you guys know what I do. And if you don't, and if you're just finding this video, you came to the right place for me to, talk about what's going on with the world, this and that. Check out the other channel too. It's not this. This is different. This is why this is a new channel. Obviously, since I'm starting from scratch, basically 0 subscribers, this will just have to be built. I got to put this out there. I got to say what I think I see because it matters to me. Instead of just sitting back, keeping my mouth shut, I don't think that's the right way to go. The main one will always come first. That's my priority. But if you value what I think I see happening in the world, as in, the complete destruction of liberty and freedom, which is what I see, then you can expect to hear about that on this channel. First thing we're going to cover on this channel, first thing ever, the Silicon Valley Bank catastrophe. I'm just going to explain it how I see it. I'm not an expert when it comes to financial matters. Most of what I know is from my own experience and from reading, teaching myself how it works. So, the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and several others. I think there were 6 or 7 other smaller banks that went out. We're going to focus on SVB, and I'll call it SVB from here on out. Just easier than saying Silicon Valley Bank, whatever. Where did this start and what happened? Well, it started with COVID money. Came from the Federal Reserve. The money's printed. The money's given out. COVID stimulus, right? Yeah. Well, banks and businesses were getting it too. Yeah, the government was handing out money like crazy. All that money was given out to banks and businesses, and what to do with all of it, right? Like, what should we do with all this money? Let's buy treasury bonds at 2% interest. It's a very safe investment, right? Federal government says so. Federal treasury bonds. These are 10-year treasury bonds. They have a 2% interest guaranteed at the end of 10 years. So it's a 10-year investment, okay? Basically, it's a pretty good deal. Well, now if you jump ahead a couple of years, now treasury bonds are 5% interest. The feds raised the rates, remember? Because of inflation. Remember what caused the inflation again? Oh, that's right. Printing money. Why did we print that money? Oh my God, COVID. Remember? It's almost as if some of us were saying that this was a bad idea a couple of years ago. And by a couple, I literally mean a couple. It hasn't been that long. New bonds are promising 5% interest. So if you're holding a 2% interest bond, it's kind of obsolete compared to the new prices. You're already taking a loss compared to 5% bonds. Now, if you sell before 10 years, the 10-year bond at 2%, ouch. Yeah, not good. SVB owed $195 billion. That's to cover people with checking accounts, saving accounts, mutual funds, etc., etc. They had $208 billion on the books. What's the difference? $17 billion. When people get nervous for whatever reason and start taking their money out, $17 billion, it's going to go pretty quick. Like blink of an eye quick, especially when you bank worldwide, which SVB did. Considering they owe $195 billion, which is a large volume of money, $17 billion, isn't going to last too long. People were trying to wire money so fast that the system bottlenecked. Yeah, it couldn't happen fast enough. So, to cover the rest of the $195 billion that they owed people, SVB needed to sell those treasuries they bought because they had so much money wrapped up in them. And by so much, I mean a lot of money wrapped up in 2% interest 10-year federal treasury bonds. But they have to sell because those are their assets and people want their money. So now SVB is selling 10-year 2% treasury bonds at a major loss. That's not supposed to be something that happens ever. They're nowhere near mature bonds. Couple years old. People saw this and they freaked out, rightfully so. Something is seriously wrong with Silicon Valley Bank if they're taking these kinds of losses, selling bonds. Anybody could see that, and they did. So they're thinking, we got to get our stuff out now. So what happens then? A fire sale. Yeah, what are 80% plus of SVB customers? Big companies. They were using SVB as business accounts for payroll, managing the corporations, companies, doing what they need to do basically. And this added to it what I'm about to tell you. So SVB loans depositors' money as venture capital to tech startup companies as well. Tech startup gets money and they got to put it somewhere. So SVB turns around and says, we'll hold on to that for you. Put it in our other hand. We'll invest in a big, solid company. Microsoft, Apple, big companies, safe investment, right? Well, the tech companies thought they were safe because they turned around, gave their money back to SVB, and SVB invested it for them, I should say. Well, little did the tech companies know, because it was in the fine print, that SVP invested in these big companies, not as small company X, but as Silicon Valley Bank. They loaned the money to themselves and then invested it. So now small company X is an unwitting shell corporation at this point. Once small company X calls Microsoft after hearing about the big SVB, collapse, whatever, they call Microsoft to make sure their investment is safe, right? Microsoft, or big company X, doesn't know who they are. The money that X thought was theirs is listed as an asset of Silicon Valley Bank under these big companies. Now that asset has to go to pay creditors. So who loses? Small company X. They lost their money. This is a shell game completely. The Fed printed the money. The government gave it out. Money becomes worth less due to inflation. That's how it works. You print money, more money you invent and throw into circulation, the less the money overall is worth. That's basic. Fed says, oh no, we got to stop that. We got to stop inflation. How do we bring the money back in? Out of circulation, because we got to stop inflation. There's too much money out there. Let's bring it back in. Well, how do we do that? The only way we can, let's raise interest rates. Yeah. Here we go.